Welcome to England Lacrosse Journal's Chase to the Goal podcast, your destination for all things lacrosse. I'm your host, Kyle Devitt. Not alongside me, you'll notice we are in different locations due to snow. Mr. Owen Hart. Owen, how we doing, man?
I'm good. Happy to still be able to do this, but I still think you have rants on you even if you're not going to be in person. I feel like I can feel the rant coming less when it's on Zoom, but the rants are still going to come.
We both know that's not true because we did a podcast before this where I talked for 20 minutes about how only cowards use a drop ride. So I'm pretty sure I got one locked in the chamber, ready to go whenever you want. Oh, have you watched any college lacrosse? When week 0 happened, there were some games.
Highlights of the Duke game just to be sick because I'm a Heels fan and I just like, as like a masochist, just watching Duke win just makes me angry. So I watched a lot of the Duke game just to kind of get angry. So yeah, that really happened.
Yes,
That's all I
please
watched.
insert PD Pablo raise up. Old heads will get that joke. All right, let's bring in our coach. He's the head coach of Marshfield Boys Lacrosse, Kevin Orcutt. Coach, how we doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself, boys?
Good. Are you wearing a vest or a jacket? Because it's popping.
It's a jacket.
Oh, okay. All right. It just looks real vest.
I'm not, be honest, I'm not a vest guy. Not a vest guy. It's a Nike jacket. We have
Nike makes the vest jerseys. So
what's that?
As long as you're not wearing vest jerseys. Have you seen those Syracuse wears? I hate those. They look like basketball pennies.
I have Billy Day works out at my place here, so he kind of hooks me up with some cool stuff that's it's usually like the NFL stuff. So I get I get an early line on that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool. He's a good dude.
Great. Let's kind of set the scene with, your background as a player and then how you became a coach. Where'd you grow up and where'd you start playing lacrosse?
There's not much to tell about it. There's not much folklore about me. I grew up in Pembroke. Actually, I was an Army brat. I grew up in Germany, actually, and then came over here, never saw lacrosse, played hockey, played soccer at a pretty high level, hockey, pretty decent level. And I went to Merrimack, and I wasn't as good as I thought I was. And I was actually pretty young, so I've been kind of on my own for a while. And I just picked up lacrosse there to kind of make some friends and stuff like that. I've got nothing to do with how good they are nowadays. They just it was just basically to make some friends and kind of do my stuff. And I did it. I was okay. I was nothing special by any means. And I thought I was done. I only went to school for a year, and I went from there. And about 3 years later, I was coaching at Derby Academy in Hingham, small private school that turned out a lot of good lacrosse players back in the time. And the athletic director kept on me about coaching lacrosse, and I said, I'm not your guy. And then finally I kind of caved because he was a really good guy. And I guess at that point it was on. So I had to kind of find ways to educate myself. And it was I'm old, so it was a different era as far as trying to educate yourself on a sport you really didn't know a lot about. So
what are some of the ways you did that? Did you dip into those the DVD series? Because I did that. The Jack Cayley DVD lived in my player,
Yeah, so how dare I ask, how old are you?
I'm 46.
So I'm before DVDs, dude. So I'm in VHS mode. So basically, there was a store around here called still around Commonwealth Lacrosse, and they had basically like 4 sets of them up there. And basically there was Petramala, Dom Stasia, Mark Millen, and
Tierney.
Tierney. Those are your basics right there. Basically, like if you go into championship productions, you will find them archived in there. And that's where I started. And I just started studying the hell out of it because I've got a good amount of confidence, but confidence comes from knowledge and work. That's my basic premise in life. And I just worked really hard. I did well at Derby. I think basically we had a small team of about 14, 15 kids. I think 9 of them went on to be ISL captains. And we used to, beat the out of everybody, with just a small squad, but just really good kids. And then I got to ask the coach at Cohasset, and that's where I started high school coaching. At that point, I had to up my game, so I called in some favors, and I called up Don Stajner and Mark Van Asdale and Coach House down at North Carolina, and Coach Kudelka at Lynchburg. And I had my kids when I was young. So basically, for every February break, I would take my kids down to that part of that neck of the woods, and I'd spend about 2 weeks with the coaches down there, just kind of trying to absorb as much as I could from the coaches and stuff like that. Hang with the practices. I just figured that if I was going to try to learn the sport, I wanted to learn from the best. So, and back then in particular, the coaches were awesome. They were just really, my, my personal favorite was Coach I would say his name wrong, Van Osdale. He was just really, really nice to me. You know, he knew I was an idiot, and he would just sit and go over offense with me. And then that's when DVDs were introduced, and he would burn DVDs for me about different shooting techniques and all this kind of stuff. And so I was around like the 2006 to the 2010 era when Virginia was like flying high. And so it's kind of cool. So I just kind of just kept on learning through, it would be much easier now because you got YouTube and all these kind of stuff to do stuff, but you really had to kind of search it out and then go meet with people and stuff like that. And I got to have meetings with, there was a guy that coached at Medfield that I latched on to, Bob Aronson, that started the program at Medfield. Kind of a controversial guy, kind of like me, a little bit at times, but a genius, total genius. And one of my other best friends was, unfortunately, passed away a couple years ago. Was Stu Curran. So Stu was
I knew Stu.
beloved
Yeah.
in the whole scheme of everything. But yeah, so that's kind of where I just kind of kept learning as much as I could.
I think you kind of lived like the parent trying to learn the game's dream, right? Like I deal now, and I've talked about this in the podcast a couple of times, where I'm kind of teaching my girlfriend's son how to play, right? He's 9 now. He's been playing. This is his 3rd year. And I have to deal with a lot of his teammates' parents. And because of like what I do and where I coach and stuff, I get a lot of questions, and I'm happy to answer all the questions. But I think it's, I would love to just like point them somewhere and just be like, here's where you should check things out. Like these people will explain it to you and like take the time. Because like for me, I'm just like, I want to coach. Let's coach. Let's coach these kids. Let's coach these kids. And then I realize it's a U10 game and I'm just screaming, put it on them.
Yeah.
Like, like put it on them. Let's go. Push it. One more pass. One more. I'm just screaming one more pass. And then I look over and there's kids like this. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm coaching 10-year-olds. But I think that's great. Like, I love when people can come from a place of not knowing a ton about it and talking about that to get into a place where they can be a head coach of a successful high school team. I think that's awesome. I would never like shade that whatsoever. I think that's amazing. And I wouldn't even downplay how incredible that is. Like the fact that you got to learn from, like you said, you're not lying. That's the best in the game. Like those are some awesome dudes. And even Stu, like I knew Stu for a little bit when I was coaching at Emerson. I had a couple of his kids on my team, and I love talking to that guy. He's always had a good, like, he had a good perspective on stuff that I was not. When I was a young coach, if you think, Owen, if you think I'm insane now, you would not have even understood where I was coming from 10, 15 years ago, where I'm like, I look like I'm possessed the entire time on the sideline, like it's a different person. And I think like guys like that, like can give you perspective is like so awesome and so great to learn from. And, I love hearing stories like that, Coach. Like that's an inspiration to me, especially now when I'm
Yeah.
dealing with parents where I'm like, you don't know what offsides is? Okay.
Yeah.
You know, like and it's fine. Like I try to adjust to it, but it's kind of new to me. But you know, you're a seasoned vet, so I'm taking any tips you can give me when it comes to that.
Yeah. Stu and my kids and Stu and his kids, we used to travel everywhere to the NCAAs every year.
Yep.
So we would travel up down there. He would find the cheapest hotels, which it's not a good idea to have him book hotels for you.
Definitely not when it's in Baltimore. I'll tell you that right now. Because
What's
that hotel is by M&T Bank Stadium. You won't stay there.
No, he had us
Do
in a
not
couple
stay there.
places where I wouldn't sleep. I'm like, I'm watching the truck, you know. I'm like, I love Stu to death, but it was just like, he was just one of a kind. He was just so we were very close that way, and it was just him and my little brother died about a week and a half off of each other, so it was like it was a tough time. It was just like, and he was just such a good person, I think, and I always call him kind of like the mayor of lacrosse, like in Massachusetts in general. He just seemed to know everybody, and he always knew. He just, I don't know. I always wished I was a lot more like him. You know, I wish I was more like as I get seasoned, I guess you would call me as I get old. Um, I got nicer, and I think there's parts of me nicer. There's things that I kind of prioritize as more important than others that maybe I kind of overdid when I was younger and stuff like that. But Stu actually took over Cohasset from me after I left Cohasset. So that's kind of where we started, kind of our friendship and stuff like that. And I don't know. I don't know. It's just sometimes you gotta have to I guess the biggest tip is like, you know, just being careful sometimes when you're coaching because I had pretty much like a stroke about 3 years ago. On literally at a youth tournament. So, and I was sitting in a tent. So, and with a company I was supposed to be doing business with, and it was a weird time. It was a weird time where I just kind of stress business, the club scene, all at the high school scene, everything kind of got to me in a nutshell at that time. So sometimes you just gotta find a way to keep it in perspective, but it's like it's hard sometimes because you're out there and you feel like you're in the game. And for me, lacrosse, I don't like my halftime stories are never, I did this in such a game because I never did anything good in a game. I mean, it was like my stuff was just, I did well in sports. If we had it around, I would have done well in it. But it's like um, you know, I would probably been a good like 30-year-old rookie of the year starting out, you know, kind of deal, you know. So it's but coaching has been fun. And Stajio was really nice. He scared the heck out of me, I'll be honest with you. He's a strong figure. A very, very nice man, but strong figure. Van Osdale was just so down to earth. And Coach House was really nice down at UNC, but it was and Kadelka has a presence to him. He's I don't know if you
Well, he's
have
like 6'9", so that helps. Yeah.
yeah, and he's got shorts that are made for me, you know, so it's kind of like and but he's so smart. I've had a bunch of kids go down and play for Lynchburg through him, including Stewie's kids.
Yep.
And he just got, I mean, he's got a presence about him. So it's just, and he's done it all. I mean, he's not like me. That's just a nobody that just kind of coaches sometimes. He's like, I mean, he played it, he grew up with it, played it, coached it, and he just excels at the college level. He was just always really nice and stuff like that. So, but he scared me too. So, but I don't know. It was all good.
Well, I'm gonna let Owen ask a question in a second, but I'm gonna tell you my Stu Curran story. I don't think I've ever told anyone this. So, one of my first jobs out of jobs, where we're on lacrosse, we all have like 20 jobs. I was a sales rep for a certain brand that is kind of still in lacrosse now, but not really. And I was trying to get in with all these coaches. Massachusetts was like my territory, and I'm not much of a salesman. I'm a writer. I'm a coach. It does, unless I can get you in a room, I'm gonna lose. You know, at that point in my life, I had no real communication skills. I was pretty bad at it. But I got to go to meet Stu at a practice, and I was like, he saw that like something was like up with me because I was like stammering and not together. He's like, "Hey man, what's wrong?" And I'm like, "I don't think I'm good at this. Like, I'm not good at this job. I just like, I'm trying to get these teams to try us out as a brand. And like, listen, I know it's not like Brian or STX or Warrior, but like, you know, I'm doing my best, man. I don't think it's that bad." And he's like, "What do you need?" I was like, "I don't know, a team order. So far, I've only sold 500 t-shirts to a tournament. I don't know what else to do." He's like, "Let me see your stuff." So I showed him we had a glove, and he's like, "It's a good glove. What does it cost?" And I told him, and he's like, "I'll get it for my whole team." And I was like, "What? Why?" And he's like, "I don't know. We don't have gloves right now. Let's do it." So he was like one of my first sales, like made me one of my first commissions, which now thank God I don't work on commission, but like he didn't have to do that. Like I've had other coaches, by the way, who got in my face and screamed at me and were like, "This is trash. I would never use this. What are you doing at my field?" And then called my manager and said I was a moron. And I'm like, oh. And then that made me kind of appreciate Stu. And I actually coached his nephew, was a goalie. He went to Emerson.
He's a goalie out of, yeah, I know the
went to
goalie, yeah.
Emerson. So I knew him that way as well. But just like a great man. And I think like that kindness is so important and kind of overlooked today. And like you were saying, the world of clubs and competitions and elite, everything's elite. If you're not elite,
Everything.
what are you
Everything.
doing? Why are you playing lacrosse? You're not elite. You didn't make
Yeah.
this super team. You'll never play in college. Ha ha. Yeah, shut up.
Yeah.
That's I hate that. That's the thing I hate about lacrosse in general is the elitism that just like gets passed down generation to generation. Is just like you shouldn't do that. Like it's such a great game to like teach. Like it really is like a hard game to master. Like I'll give you that. Like it's very difficult to be like a masterful player or a masterful coach if you want to call it that. But like there's such a baseline return from playing lacrosse that I feel like you don't get it as quickly from other sports because you can use all the aspects of other sports to be decent at lacrosse.
Yeah.
Like if you gave me a kid who could not catch or throw, but it was a great athlete, guess what? You're at SSDM and you're going to help us win. Like that's great. Like I'll help you make us win. Don't you want that? And a lot of kids do. And I feel like parents do, but they only want their kid to win if like he scored 10 goals. It's like,
yeah.
what are you doing?
These were the conversations Stu and I would have because I went from Cohasset to Quincy because, you know, in my early 30s, I was just, if I didn't like something, I just got angry. And I worked and I worked well with city kids and I didn't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, didn't matter. And I got kids that never played before. I had Marty Bose. I picked up Marty Bose, went on to play, and they're like, "Oh, you'll play coaching a stupid city school." Yeah, well, Marty Bose went on to play in the MLL, you know. He had to put up with me for 4 years. And but we would have conversations, Stu and I, while he was in Cohasset, he was complaining about, we have one story where he was complaining about, he used to, just to screw with his kids, not his own children, but his team. He used to drive from Hull to Cohasset on a yellow Vespa. And he's a big man. He's a big man.
He's a big dude.
And he drives there and he gets there and he goes, "My kids are a bunch of punks, you know," and he's going back and forth. And I go, "Stu, I can't talk to you right now." I said, "Someone lit the marsh on fire. The marsh is burning down behind me. I have all of the southern artery in Quincy is shut down right now because someone went to have a smoke in the woods and it was all going towards where the Cannons used to play." And I'm like, "Stu, I gotta go." You know, and it was like, so we were just we would go back and forth with our stories on stuff because at some point he was just kind of like, "All right, I get it, Kev. I get what's going on with you," you know, and it's just like, he was just kind of funny that way. I probably know what was the company you worked for? Was it begin with an H?
I don't want to say it.
Did it begin with
I'd
Smart,
like
smart.
No, I'm
What is
smart.
it?
I don't want to say it because I don't want to. Because when I quit, I dumped all my samples on my boss's lawn and left him a mean note. So I don't want to say it. And
Yeah.
I think he's still in Mass, and I don't think he knows what I do. So I would
Yeah.
rather keep that
Yeah.
out
Because
of.
Stu is always really good at giving people chances, you know,
sure.
and that's what, and we did that. We did that with the Bay State games. We coached together, me, him, Aronson, Chris Weber, all coached together in the Bay State games for 4 years, from like 2000 to 2004. So we had a blast doing that. So it was good.
So I say, go top shelf, upper 90s, right under the crossbar. Any questions?
Professor, the NCAA Lacrosse Championships are coming to Boston. Are we ready?
You prepared to get loud, face paint up, bring boom boom to Beantown? Oh, you're ready. The NCAA D1, D2, and D3 men's and D1 women's lacrosse championships, May 23rd through the 26th in Boston. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/tickets.
Are you serious about playing your sport in college? Do you need a flexible education that allows you to maintain your practice and competition schedules while also preparing you to succeed at the next level? You should check out the University of Nebraska High School. UNHS is accredited and offers more than 100 online courses, including NCAA-approved courses to protect your academic eligibility. Students could earn a UNHS diploma or take a single course for transfer credit. Courses are college prep, self-paced, and available 24/7, 365. Enroll anytime and take up to a year to complete a course. Visit highschool.nebraska.edu today.
Hi, I'm Jamie Marcoux, AVP for Athletics at LaSalle University. We're proud to offer 15 NCAA Division III varsity sports teams. And last year, all of our varsity teams advanced to the conference playoffs. Our student athletes excel both on the field and in the classroom. LaSalle offers over 60 majors and minors and is located just 8 miles from Boston. With one of the most affordable private educations and housing ranked #1 in Massachusetts by niche, we're committed to providing an exceptional college experience. Visit lasalle.edu to learn more.
If somebody brings up a name on the podcast, there's a good chance everybody knows them. Like, that's what I love about the sport that we play in. Like, if I see somebody walking down the street with like a Celtics jersey on, I'm not gonna think anything of it. If they're just wearing a high school that I've never heard of that says lacrosse, there's a good chance I have a good relationship with somebody that you do too. It's just this, the nicheness of it is just so, the relationships. So talking, Kyle, you brought up like the elitism that this sport creates sometimes, for worse, that we all hate. And I loved hearing your story, Coach, because it's similar to mine. Like, I didn't play high school lacrosse. I showed up my senior year with a stick and just like, I want to join the team, whatever. I didn't play in college, and I came back and started coaching, giving back to the sport that really meant the most to me, that I just showed up and fell in love with. And the elitism can turn off some people. We don't get probably a lot of kids like me who just show up because they want to play, because they think it's so like I need to be the best and I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm sure Kyle's in the hallway of his high school saying, "You're over 5 foot, like come play for me." And we get some kids like that too. I'm curious if you like have any experience with the people at your high school. I had a pretty prestigious program in the state where it's just kind of like they just kind of filter in, haven't played lacrosse before, but still want to be a part of the program that you guys have built. Does that ever happen, or not as much? I think that it should happen across the state more than it does. And I think a lot of stuff deters kids from doing that. And I would advise them to not be deterred by that.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a great point. Um, my whole club is like I'm a mom and pop club, like Hawks is. I survived COVID somehow. I don't know how. I don't have. It's literally me. I now work with a kid, had buzzards as well too, Connor Johnson, who's great. He's a great. He works with me. He's great with the kids. He's 30, so he's much better like he's a lot cooler than me, so it's kind of good. He works his tail off. He's got like a whole niche of the like 495 area that the kids kind of really like. He's just got a good way about him, and so we're a good combination. I'm kind of like dad and he's kind of like the kid, kind of does his thing, so that's kind of nice. But our whole club is based upon the type of kid that you are. That basically, like, we see kids that are talented, but people want to see kids when they're like in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, that have already hit puberty, that just dodge through 10 people and can score goals to win their parents' games. And that's all they care about. Well, on the peripheral, there's 7 other kids that never get to touch the ball, because the kid that's winning all the games never passes the ball. And it's not necessarily the kid that's not passing the ball. It's that he's encouraged to do that so they can win a tournament, as opposed to kind of like, can we elevate other people around us that way? So I've spent my whole life, because I was a late bloomer. I was a $145, 5'9" when I graduated high school. By the time I was 20, I was 6 feet 205, and I had my hockey weight. But at that point, the hockey dream was over at that point. And we just see so many late bloomers, that it's like kids are 17, 18, and you have got to have seen this. You guys are right in the middle of it all. That you see so many 17, 18, 19-year-olds that no one looked at them twice. No one looked at them twice. And they're the kids kicking it in college. They're killing it in college because they're men that had to kind of like, no one patted them on the back. No one told them how good they were. They're always told that they were kind of second tier or third tier people. And they found the passion on themselves. And all of a sudden, aren't those the kids you want in your foxhole with you? I mean, those are the kids you want that have been told over and over and over again, you suck, and yet they keep getting up. And that's been the magic for me in Marshfield so far, is that like I've had a group of kids. My team last year had probably 7 or 8 kids that in one way or another have been with me since 5th or 6th grade. And the ironic part was the Duxbury semifinal, which was a classic in itself too, was their team. I had 8 out of their 10 since they were in 3rd grade. So when we played against each other, there's a weird moment that like we started off slow in that game, and we came back, we took a commanding lead, and then they came back on us, and they literally scored with like the time ended, but Goodwin was in the crease. Controversial, but it wasn't a goal. And
that was a crazy moment.
It was a very crazy. I stopped breathing for about a minute. And but if you watch it in film, 2 of my kids turned to Duxbury kids and hugged them because they've been playing together since they were in third grade. And it was just like this weird, surreal, like you were happy, but like we saw this thing that was just like, it's what's club's supposed to be about. It's what it's supposed to be about. Like kids like finding some of my best friends playing club hockey growing up were from other towns, and those who I felt connected with for my whole life. Now, as Kyle, you speak to, is turned into this elitism. Most of my kids in Marshfield are not playing college lacrosse. They're capable. They just like, John Gibberti, absolute stud. He's going to UMass Amherst for a business degree. He would struggle to play Division I lacrosse. Caneller's incredible. I love him, but John, he's doing that. I've got a great crease attack, and he's living his dream at LSU. So why am I going to say that that's bad? He's not an elite player because he went to LSU. I mean, and like I've got Nick Couples, who's playing at Endicott for a great coach up there with his older brother, Ethan Couples, the 2-time captain, 2-time All-American up there. So I'm like pumped about that. But we had so many great kids on that team that believe that we've been kicked in the face because like public school in particular, like my whole club is, I think 98% public school non-Stay-backs. So we have a lot of trouble at the youth because we're playing against kids 2 years older than us at times. And like, what do you say? What do you say to parents? What do parents do? Parents take their kids to other clubs so they can win games. What do we? I understand to a point, but for me, it's about development because I have my gift is not being a good player. It's not even really being a great coach, but I'm really good, I think, at seeing what you're capable of being. That's what I'm really good at. I'm like, I can see Kyle when he's in high school. I can see him when he's struggling when he's 16 years old and being like, dude, just hang in there another year. You're going to grow a little bit more. What's going to happen then? and just buy into me. I trust you on this. People don't always agree with my methods. So be it. I'm old school. I'm old. That's where I come from. Um, but that's kind of where that's my biggest disagreement with where we are club wise. And club is now infiltrated high school in the sense that people are not letting people enjoy high school lacrosse anymore. That it's all about a destination of going to playing college. Well, a lot of people don't want to play in college, and that's okay. I have like probably one of the best set of kids I ever had last year, and some are playing college lacrosse. A lot of them playing down at Mass Maritime for a great guy and Mike Smith down there, and then I have a bunch that just going to college and having a great time, and that to me, I think I did a good job with them, and they almost won a state championship last year. So it was like, and everyone kind of says that we were like, I don't know, it was an overnight success. There's nothing overnight about what we did. It was like 6 or 7 years of getting kicked in the teeth over and over and over again and doing our things. And we just got some special talents. I mean, we've got a kid, Charlie Carroll, kid Sam O'Brien, Gavin O'Donoghue, that, dare I say, they play for another club. They do, and they're spectacular. And I mean, I love them. And I'm
I
not
love
gonna
Charlie Carroll. Charlie Carroll is one of my favorite players in the state. Like,
Yeah.
I just wrote him up today. It's on laxjournal.com. Like,
Yeah.
he's so dynamic. He can do anything. I like when he goes to UVM, I like don't know what Fifes is gonna do with him. Cause he's
Yeah.
like good at
can do anything.
everything.
You can do
But
anything.
like, what is he going to be in? He could be an attackman. He could be an SSDM. He could be whatever he wants. Like
He's just like,
it's a
he
rare
came to
talent.
me- yeah, he came to me when he was 14, and he said, like at the time I didn't have a left-handed attackman, and he's like, Coach, I've been playing LSM, and I'm like, yeah. He's like, I want to play short stick, and I'm like, let's see what you look like, and I said, I don't care. I mean, let's just see. You're a 14-year-old kid. I'm not going to tell you. And he had the stick in his hand for 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, you want to play mid or attack? What do you want to do? And I'm like, you're going to start as a freshman, dude. And he had like 60 points. Norwell only had one loss that year to a regular public school. They lost to St. John's. They lost to us. And we were very average. We were very average that year. But Charlie Carroll had a hat trick in that game. So Charlie is like, Charlie is incredible. He's good because he knows he can be a little bit of a diva on me sometimes. But he'll apologize right after. And Coach, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. So he's like, he's not over the edge that way with me, but he's such a tough kid. He's such an athletic kid. He's so talented. He's got good vision. He takes account for his mistakes. And when it's time to show up, the boy shows up. But the boy shows up big time. He ran into a problem because Situate kind of does with Poos and Garrett and Situate will kind of do kind of funny things with like lock-offs and stuff. And he's like, they're locking me off. I said, well, you're gonna have to find a way, Charlie. And he gets shut down by Poos one game, and then we kind of worked with him a little bit, and he just kind of came back the second game and just kind of lit it up. But he's incredibly dynamic. He's incredibly fun. He's a great kid, great family. And like the other kid that I lost was his older brother, Tommy Carroll, who Tommy Carroll was a better hockey player. And but Tommy was a dog. So I don't know what's in their family blood or whatever their case is, but they're dogs. And Tommy's down, he's playing hockey at Tennessee. So again, these are my kids that like almost won a state championship. They're all over the country doing their own thing. And Tommy was an absolute animal for us last year. Charlie is going to be awesome for me. Will be awesome for me this year. Sam O'Brien, I don't know why he hasn't been picked up yet. As a face-off guy.
One of the best
He's
face-off guys.
tremendous.
Yeah, very good.
He's tremendous. He's tremendous. And he's matured so much last year. I'm hoping my goal for him this year is that I know that Johnny Mullins is nasty at Syracuse, but like Johnny Mullins made a transformation between his junior year and senior year, where he stopped becoming a face-off guy and became like the quarterback on the field. And I saw it because I was on the receiving end of it. And he just was like, I was like, it was like a man amongst boys. Like Sam already has the body for it. And I just don't think we're still working on his composure at this point. That's his one thing right now, is his composure. But, I keep on telling Sam, like, if you can kind of continue that, then, this could be a fun year where I can keep you on the field and say, screw the Fogo tag, be a lacrosse player for the year. You're only in high school for a couple of years, So it's like,
Meanwhile, I'm trying to convince my Fogo to not play offense.
really?
Yeah. He's going to RPI, but
Really?
because he's going to RPI, but he's a little, I think we put him in practice last year at the end of the year. He's like, I want to play offense in this game. I was like, okay. And he didn't know any of the places to be on offense. And I was
Yeah.
like, you're out. And he's like, why? I'm like, you don't know where you're going. He's like, yeah, but I scored. I'm like, I don't care. Do I
Yeah.
look like I care?
Yeah.
Dude, no, we have to learn the offense. If you don't know the offense, you can't play offense. He's like, but I scored. I'm like, go take faceoffs in the corner. Go,
Yeah.
go. And he did it. Like he this year he's a senior. So he's like super, and he got his commitment. He's super into it. And I've already had my players are like, are you ready to deal with this? I'm like, yep, I'm ready. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And I don't care. I'll talk about it on the podcast. He knows what's happening. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those things where, I'm so proud of the guys that I've actually coached that have gone on to college, but I'm also proud, like you said, I'm also proud. Like we got a kid got into West Point, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's awesome, dude. That's so awesome. He's like, I'm not going to play lacrosse. I'm like, I know. Like, I don't care. That's so awesome for you. Kid got into Duquesne and is studying engineering, helped us win a championship. I'm like, dude, that is so amazing. And a kid is a punter for St. Lawrence who like played for us a little and then didn't play for us because his attitude wasn't right. I'm still happy for him. I think that's like the magic of coaching is like, you get to help them not just play lacrosse. You get to help them like be men, or at least like put them on a path where like we're becoming that, and the kids that you get to do that with and they respond to, that's so rewarding. And then like, the thing that's heartbreaking is like some kids just don't, they just don't. And you kind of have to go, I tried. Like I think that's the hardest thing coaching high school now. Coaching college, I'm just like, you're finished products. Like and the finish is raw and rare. And you need to go back in the oven. But like, at least I can try to a little bit. But with high school kids, the impact is so much bigger than people realize. And these high school kids are being coached from the youth level by 1,000 voices. And then they get to high school and it's just like, my club team coach, my high school coach, my club team coach, my high school coach, my high school assistant, my other club team coach, the guy who gives me private lessons, the private school guy who's trying to recruit me to go to his school. It's like you're overloading an entire generation of kids who are already overloaded with stuff. Like it's so, and it's funny because like kind of my job is I'm the loader. Like I'm here loading the truck full of hype for you. And that is part of my job. But I also recognize that like, if I overdo it on kids that don't deserve it, like their parents are just like, you don't pay attention to this school. I was like, I don't know who that is. I'm happy to watch them and I'll watch tape on anybody. I don't care. I got notes on 1,000 kids in an Excel sheet that no one will ever see. Like that's part of the job. But I think it's interesting that you're a club coach and a high school coach. I have done spot work for clubs. I've already admitted to that several times on the podcast. I've never, well, that's not true. In 2009, I coached Leading Edge New England, who was here for 1 year. In 2009, 2010, in the summer, they came up. It's a New Jersey club team, but they had a northern expansion for like one summer. And I coached like the U15 team. And it was awesome. And I got paid more money for doing that than I had ever gotten paid in lacrosse to that point. And at that point, I had been a college coach for 6-7 years.
Who'd you
So
coach in college?
Plymouth State, St. A's, Franklin Pierce, Emerson, and I was the head coach at Daniel Webster for 6 years. So I coached for 12 years in college. And now I've been a high school coach. It's my 5th year as a high school coach. So, going back to the club versus high school and the connection. I tell Owen, last time I talked to Owen, I was like, Owen, you need to get in with a club team and just make some money, coach some kids. Cause like you're in a good spot where like you can help the kids too. And I think that's cool. Like that's a good thing. I'm not like go to the teams that don't need you, like there's certain club teams that just don't need more coaches. There's a lot of club teams that need good coaches.
Good coach.
And it's like,
Good coach.
I don't want to get onto a rant because I have a good relationship with a lot of club coaches. Most of them.
Yep.
Some of them are, I don't know how you have relationships with anyone with how you speak to me, but there are a couple of guys that, I've been involved with and I've done stuff with. And in New Hampshire, there's essentially 2 club teams that run everything, right?
Yep.
So it's Four Leaf and Tomahawks. And then like Hooligans has a little bit of Seacoast, not a lot. They're trying to break in. And they're kind of doing a little bit what you're doing, which what I would like to do if I had my druthers and I really wanted to get in a club, I would build a club of kids that you don't want. I want all those kids. Give me the kids give me your worst kids on every club team, from all the club teams from Central New Hampshire down to like, I don't know, Danvers, right? Give me all those kids in that little silo right there. Send them to me and I'll send them back to you. Like, I don't care. I don't get why. I mean, I do get why. But there's this war over kids. There's this war over like, you're a this kid, you're a my kid, you play for me, you're going to do this. And, I get why that happens, but I don't think it helps more than it hurts. And it probably sounds antithetical to the guy who edits New England Lacrosse Journal to say that, but I'm also a coach and a person that loves lacrosse and grew up in the smallest town you've ever seen in your life. So I recognize the value of teaching everyone lacrosse, not just elite people. And, those are the people I have problems with, if I'm honest with you. Like if I have problems with anyone in lacrosse, it's people that are elite and pushing just for elite. And I'm like, that's great. You can do your thing, but like, I'd much rather just talk to you about the game or whatever. And they never want to have those conversations. So when you told that story about talking to Starja, talking to Haas and Kudelka and Van Arsdale and all those dudes and Pietramella, I'm sitting there and I'm going like, that's how it should be. And I think that's so much harder now than it ever was. It's so much harder. And I don't know why. Other than
there's so much money and there's so much, the venture capitalists are in it now. I mean, you've got, a company in there that's owns, 4 or 5 clubs in Massachusetts itself. And now you're going into the northern and going into New Hampshire now. It's just the hard part from what you were saying about like, give me your worst players, is you develop those players to try to get them to that point where they're actually see how good they can be. And it's like kind of heartbreaking at a point because like I've done this with kids. You get them to a certain point and then they go to another club. And this other club the first thing they do is they brand them. And they brand them as, like this kid's going so-and-so. And my thought process on if a kid's going to play in college, I would have stayed 4 years in college. I didn't have a home growing up. I needed a family. Like I needed 15, 20 people to look after me if I went to college, and I didn't have that. And the chance, and I was smart. I'm not a dumb person. And a lot of the players that are out there, in my opinion, are being placed in places they don't belong. And for the sake of, I have a kid playing at a certain school that is maybe not the right fit for the kid. And where, like you said, you coached at Daniel Webster, you coached at Emerson, you coached at St. A's, among other different schools you coached at, where the kid went there, had great 4 years of college there, had a great experience. They're not going to play pro lacrosse, but they made friends, they got a degree, and they grew up in front of your eyes. And I think what's happening now is the kids aren't getting that opportunity to do that anymore. And they're getting placed in places where they're set up to fail. And so they're not having a good high school experience. I mean, like you said, they're all questioning at this point why, they've got 10 different voices in their head telling them what they should do instead of having one person guiding them. For better or for worse, mine was my high school hockey coach. He was a god. I mean, he literally saved my life in high school. And you just don't have that anymore. You got a kid that has all the ability in the world, listen to 10 different voices, and you wonder why the kid's confused. And it's like, and what happens after a year, he's either quitting school, focusing on his academics, or going to find another school, and you kind of going, just wasted a lot of time. And maybe like one of my favorite kids from last year is a kid, Nick Couples, and he's an animal just like his older brother, Ethan. And he just has his head screwed on right, two-time captain in football, two-time, and not a big kid either, just the heart like a lion, like his brother. But he's going to school for the right reasons. He found the right place. He's going to Endicott. I couldn't be more prouder. My goalie, who was off the map, is going to a smaller school. St. Joe is up in Maine, but he's going to get to play with his brother, so it's like, I'm happy. It's good for him, and a lot of our kids will go to those type of schools. We have a strong pipeline to Mass Maritime. I mean, we're on the water in Marshfield, so kind of makes sense. I have a really good relationship with the head coach down there. I've coached down there twice myself, so I know what it's like. I know the type of kids, and I've got I got three defensemen down there right now, plus their leading scorer is mine. So he's a Marshfield kid. So our kids are prospering, but if you saw, to your thing about elite, if you were to judge those kids when they were 16 years old, you'd say they're garbage. They're garbage, and they're garbage. There's somebody's kid, number one. Number two, you don't know what's in their kid's head. You don't know what their trigger is, and when that light goes on and he's pissed off, God help you.
You mentioned the Duxbury game and how like a big deal that was. You guys had played over that year, and you were Duxbury's only loss. You beat them in the start of the year, and I think a lot of people maybe called that a fluke, or maybe didn't really believe that it would happen again. Then you guys played, and I get the vibe that you like being the underdog. You like telling people that nobody believes in us. And what was that kind of like going to that atmosphere, like getting your guys to believe that nobody believed in you, but we believe in ourselves, and you went up going to the state finals, beating Duxbury in a crazy game. Just what was that week of practice like, or a couple of days, because the state championship's only so fast?
We just knew. I'll be honest. The weird part for us is that, like, three of the Duxbury kids coach for me, like in my club. So like they're already here coaching for me. The Hewlett brothers, they're twins, they're unbelievable kids.
Great guys, yeah.
Stack Falls, really good kid. Owen Ween used to play for me. Like Thomas Sheehan used to play for me. Will Silver used to play for me. I didn't have to scout. I spent no time on film. I'm like, I taught these kids. I know exactly what they do. So it's like, I just knew what my matchups were. So it was just like, I know that like Will Silvick's really good, but I know what my attackman can kind of do. And it was just going to be, it was like watching two kids that I've coached for a better part of 7 or 8 years battle with each other and see which one kind of, if they picked up on each other's weaknesses and strengths better or worse that way. So it was really kind of cool. I love being the underdog because no one ever thinks anything of me because there's nothing elite about me. No one has ever thought that about me. And I hate that. That's the one thing for me that really bothers me about lacrosse is the whole elite tagging of things because what people don't know is I own like a gym and I own like a sanctuary. So what that is I have a performance center called Hardcore. And the sanctuary is recovery. I had the stroke 3 years ago. And basically doctors really weren't helping me. So I went into ice, heat, red light, hot tubs, all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, a bunch of NHL players started showing up here. And then all of a sudden, the New England Free Jacks, the pro rugby team out of Quincy, like I'm partnered with them, so they're in here like 3 times a week. Monster men from all over the world. So you get a whole different perspective. Billy Day's in here. I have Kevin Buchanan's in here all the time. He's in here 4 times a week. Sean Lawton, Jack Murphy. These are guys that have made it. These are guys that like have done it. And like on a daily basis, I can have 3 or 4 conversations with like grown men. Ellie Setnor, the #1 draft pick in the women's soccer draft last year. Works out here in our off season. So it's a pretty cool place. So you get a lot of like the whole how unimportant 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade is like in your whole scheme of things. Because Drew Comesso, the USA goalie, is here. And he's like, yeah, like I've always been on the path, But he's like, I was horrible when I was 12 or 13. He plays for the Chicago Blackhawks now. Mike Hardman was like, he plays for the New Jersey Devils now. He went from 5'4" to 6'4" in a matter of 4 years, and everybody looked down under the radar that way. Kevin Buchanan's from Baltimore. So I got like this whole thing of like, he's like, I don't get it up here. It's like, it's this whole, he's like, he's one of the best players in the world. He's like, I don't understand the whole elitism about what's going on. He's like, it's a game. It's wicked fun. And he's like, and you should see him. He comes in, he's here every Friday night. He coaches all three of his kids, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. He's like a little kid out there with his kids. There's no elitism whatsoever. He's doing it the way it's supposed to. He's giving back. He's like one of my favorite people here. And I'm just like, can I get this guy and like clone you and just kind of get you back in here? Because it's what it's supposed to be like. He's like, for you guys to meet him on the street, he'd be, oh yeah, I know him. And like, I'll call up Mish Belisle or I'll call up Brett Manning or something like that. And he's like, oh yeah. And they all know him as Bucky, and I'm like, I don't even know him as Bucky, whatever the case is.
I do.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, that's what we call them. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, and a grown man. I don't know. It's weird calling people by like these, like, I don't know. And he's just, they're just like good people, but they're not like Kevin Buchanan should walk into a room and everybody should bow down to him, how good he is. And he never, ever, ever gets that, He's like Clark Kent. He works out in the gym. He's got glasses on. And then I had a couple of my Marshfield kids come back. I said, John Sullivan, who I love to death, Nolan Kavanaugh, who I love to death. I said, come on down. I want you to meet somebody. And I introduced himself, but they're kind of like being like stupid little kids, And I'm like, they walked away and I grabbed them. And I said, listen, guys, that's one of the best lacrosse players in the world. I mean, that's Kevin Buchanan. Like, that's Kevin Buchanan. They're like, but he's got glasses on and stuff. And I'm like, his glasses come off, dude. And I'm like, trust me, they come off. And, I'm like,
Yeah.
just like, go on YouTube for a few minutes. And and you're like, that's the guy that came to our practice. I go, yeah, that's the guy that came to our practice, dudes.
But that's what you want. Like, I don't think that if I'm bringing someone in to talk to my team or talk to my kids or whatever, I don't want them to be like, I am this, I am that. Like, I want them to just do what they do. If you are coaching off your name, you're not coaching.
Yeah.
You're just, where's my check? Don't coach off your name. Like, I don't even no one calls me Kyle. Everyone calls me Devin. And I hate it, but it is what it is. Like, that's lacrosse. You know how many Kyles there are in lacrosse? You know how embarrassing it is to have someone be like, hey, it's Kyle. Like, Kyle who? Like Kyle Harrison? Kyle Hartzell? No. The short reporter man. Please talk to me. That's a lot of it too. So like when you start throwing name into stuff and there's like nothing behind it, that's when like I think these dudes get a little lost, because I've seen that happen too. And I love that he's not that guy, because I know that he's not that guy anyway. You could not told me that story, I would have known that. And I think that's actually the greatest mark of a coach, is like, I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. Is like, well, here's why. Here's why this works. I think this works because this, and not using like, I did this and I played here. And because that's what a lot of lacrosse is too. That's the other part of lacrosse I can't stand. It's like, oh, well, at UNC, we did this. At Hopkins, we did this. It's like, so did it work? Like, you can throw whatever. And I think people like the thing that it doesn't fool people like us. It fools like parents who are like, see a name and they're like, ooh, he played Division I here and he's an All-American and all. That doesn't mean you're a good coach. Like, that drives me crazy. Like, Owen, if you were just looking at your resume, like I wouldn't know that you're a coach at Westwood, which is one of the better programs. I wouldn't know that, but I know that you know what you're doing because you work with Z, first of all. Z's not an idiot, even though he's listening to this podcast, and I could have called him an idiot and I didn't. I took it away. You're welcome. Right? Thank you. Like, I would trust you with my kid before I would trust some dude that just graduated from Syracuse that was an All-American that like everyone's heard of, but I don't know who. I don't know you. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that hurts growth, is reliance on word without confirmation, and without people take your playing career as evidence that you're a good coach. And it's not true. Like, it's just straight up not. And that's every sport, by the way. Anyone listening to this, that's every single sport in the world. Okay? It just is. Just because you're a good player doesn't mean you're a good coach. Doesn't mean you know how to coach. Doesn't mean you know how to talk to kids. Doesn't mean you know how to explain things. Doesn't mean you know everything that there is to know. And I think that's the part where I get mad at elitism, because I think people just assume you coach for this club or you coach for this high school and you're like amazing and I should listen to every single thing that you say. Probably not. Yeah. Probably not. You know, like, especially if they're coaching 50 kids. You know, like, I don't know. One of the things I specialize is helping out kids that don't get that. Now that's like, I love teaching the game to kids. I don't really love being like, I mean, I can do this and I do this sometimes, but I don't like being like, you can't do a C cut here. Like, you can't get open on this guy. Why can't you get open on this guy? You know, I don't like doing that. That's not fun. Yeah. Teaching the kid why that matters is better. Yeah. Like, that's what makes a person knowledgeable, you know, and being able to scheme and being able to have tactics. That's great. But like, if your kid hates you.
Yeah. Well, how you like, term it to the kid.
Right.
Maybe a C cut, maybe it might work for you a little bit better here. Maybe if you go up field, maybe if you go up the hashes. So whatever the case is, it's just, I don't know. I just don't like right now. There's a lot of kids, and this goes back to about maybe 20 minutes ago, that are being told that they're not supposed to be part of the game right now because they're not established at 15 or 16. We have a kid that will probably be a very, very strong player for us. This kid, Evan, is from Louisiana. Never played lacrosse before, really good football player. And the SSDM were all over him. You know, toughest kid in the weight room. I'm like, I can't pick up a ground ball yet. I said, I'll teach you how to pick up a ground ball. You squat, just pick up the damn ball while you're down there, right, dude? And and he'll just run you over. And he's got such a great attitude. And we've been lucky that Marshfield in itself, Charlie's brother Tommy was like that. But Tommy had skills as well too. But there's all these kids that are told they can't make it because they're not skilled enough. And I just scoff at the idea. I mean, I think probably one of the most important things that I learned when I went down to Virginia the first time, when I sat with Stajer and I sat with Van Osdale, was Stajer looked at me and goes, you know, I didn't play lacrosse till I went to college. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, I went to Brown, and he never played lacrosse. He grew up in an environment where I'm sure he played with a stick here and there. Um, but he ended up being a 3 or 4 time All-American at Brown without ever playing high school lacrosse. And he was like, it wasn't him that told me either. It was Van Arsdale. It wasn't Starzer. Starzer is just kind of he defines the word stoic. He
Yes.
defines the word stoic.
We've had him on the podcast. It's worth searching out. That podcast is pretty wild. We had him
Yeah.
on a couple years ago. He's a different kind of cat, and he's a different guy now than when he was coaching at UVA in a
Yeah.
good way. Like
Yeah.
not in a bad way at all. It's just he's
No,
great.
he
to talk
wasn't
to.
bad at all. It was just, I was just like a dumb kid that I was just like, I don't know anything. And I'm just like, can I just sit on your sideline and take notes as much? And then I remember being there and go, like, I can't see that well. And I'm very like visual. I need to be like in the drill and not be in the drill itself, but I like got Van Arsdale's ear the whole time. And like if something didn't make sense, I go like, he was really nice to me and he didn't make me feel like an idiot. Like if there was a drill being done, he would just kind of tell me, oh, we're having them cut in this way. There was one thing that always kind of confused me because when they would dodge, and it was the group that had Dixon, Ward, Rubier, Posque, the super team of 06.
Yeah.
And he said, Van Arsdale's like, I was taught originally, the first motion offense that I was taught way back in the day was, you get like Kyle Dixon coming from the top, clear out your near side attackman to give him room so he can dodge. And I'm like, okay. So we did that. I was at Derby when I was coaching, we would do that. But the whole time I was doing it, I was like, but we've just lost an attackman the whole time. Because that's a hard catch to make coming across that way. You're like sending them to death's door. So if you got a lefty coming across the door like this, he has to somehow catch it like this and put in the net. It's like a suicide pass. There's some guys that will do it, but not that many. I didn't have any. And he's like, so we came up with another idea. He says we took Rubier down, and he would just extend down to goal line extended, and just see how his defender played him, and then we clear him through. And so basically, he kind of forced the hand on the near side on the near side defender. If he hedges too much, Rubier is wide open for a back door, a front door right there. And then if he doesn't, he clears through. The same thing has happened. We're good to go that way. But it was just like little nuances like that. They aren't like little nuances to me. They're really big deals to me. So it taught me like how to like clear through totally different on things that way. But the way that he talked to me about it was so non-condescending that it was like, all right, maybe I can do this. Okay. Because it wasn't like, I don't know. It was just kind of cool. So
Yeah. Having the why always helps.
yeah.
Like
You have to have
why
that.
am I
You
doing
have to have
this?
the why.
Yeah. I
Have to
think
have the
there's a
why.
lot of mechanical, and we talked about this before many times, the joysticking that goes on. Like
The what?
they're joysticking, like controlling kids like this, like with a control pad, right? Like that's I think it's the worst thing in lacrosse. And I see really successful teams do it, and I hate it. And like I've told teams, I'm like, hey, how come you joystick this kid? They're like, we don't do that. And I was like, you mean you don't tell him to do the exact same thing every time on this play you run? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, you know that they're going to adjust to that. Like you always have to have an exit. You always have to have an alternative. So like every time I teach an offense, I'm like, okay, not if this happens. If you feel this, this is your exit. If you feel this, this is your exit. If you feel this, this is your exit. I always have like an exit, which is why I'm a slave to 2-3-1, counting from the top. I'm an absolute slave to it. Like I won't leave it, because everything that I teach is there's always someone to pass to, right?
Yeah.
In that offense, there's always, even when we're moving, there's always someone to pass to on either side of you. So that's why I think it's super important. And I would love to get into that. But I don't think we have a lot of time left.
Yeah.
Owen, do you want to ask one more question of Coach?
I would just say, you guys had an amazing season last year. Just what are your kind of goals for the upcoming season in terms of who are you returning and where do you think you guys can get the same level, and how do you see the season coming? Just from riding the coattails of that state championship run, or state finals run, I should say. Sorry.
So basically, we have our face-off guy back. Charlie Carroll, John Sullivan are back. That's great. We have a new goalie, but he's good and solid. I like my goalie, Dylan Burrow. My defense is back, which is good. We had a really good defense, but they all got hurt last year. So we did that whole run with 3 backup defenders from day one. We had 3 seniors that never played, which was hard because they are great kids too. They're all at Mass Maritime now. And we have to replace our D-middies, but I think we're going to find we got a couple good ones in Aiden Delaney, Cole Hannigan, this kid Evan I was talking about. I think we'll be able to find a 4th one. Our LSM is solid. This kid Gavin O'Donohue is really good. Colton Bradley would probably back him up. He's pretty solid. Davin True is our key to our defense. He's really good. There's a kid Keegan Hunt that does really well. We're getting there. There's a kid Kyle Fakaizen that has stepped up his game pretty well for us. Offensively, experience is going to be the big thing. We lost 5 out of our 6. 4 out of our 6 starting. We put 300 goals on the board last year, and offense is kind of my thing. They're capable, but they don't have experience at this point yet. And I don't know. I like to score. That's kind of my thing. I'm not like a control guy. I am so pro shot clock. There's no 2 ways about it. I love shot clocks. I hate 6-5 games. Just I think we could be good. But I'm afraid a little bit that a lot of the kids have got some pats in the backs, and we're all of a sudden we're a blue blood. We're not a blue blood. We're a bunch of workhorses. We're blue collar. That's the way it is. That's what I'm associated with. That's what I want to be. I love the kids that are coming back. It just depends on their learning curve and how fast they want to buy into what's going on. They're obviously Charlie Carroll is huge to watch, but please watch for John Sullivan, because John Sullivan is he's a really, really special player. He's really, really special, and he's clutch. It usually takes him about 3 games to get back in, because he's actually a really good hockey player too, and he doesn't touch a stick much during the winter. So we have a lot of multi-sport kids, which I'm totally good with. A lot of people have said stuff like we came out of nowhere. We were a 500 team. Since COVID, the 2020 team we had was really, really good. I think my 2020 team was better than last year's team, to be quite honest. We just didn't get to play. We had trouble rebuilding 21, 22, but I put together a schedule that was always hard. We lost to LaSalle by a goal. We lost to Duxbury by a goal, which was pretty. We've been playing tough games and just been going through it that way. We've been kind of fighting hard. I think we'll be okay. That being said, my goal is always to go to the championship. It's always to go to the championship. I think this group can do it. I think you may see some growing pains. Our schedule is we start with Duxbury, and then we play Lincoln Sudbury, and then we play Pembroke, and then we play Medfield. So
It'll be fun.
I said, what the hell? Why not? Let's just do it,
Yeah.
And
Load up.
I don't know. I just and I'd like to say kudos as well to a lot of these coaches out there, because they've been really good to me. ISOF at Medfield has been really good to me. I just met Vaughn for the first time last year, and I've heard different stories about him, but he's been really, really nice to me. I don't know why he's nice to me, but he's got all my respect, to be quite honest.
I know why.
Why?
Because you're a public school dude.
Yeah,
You're no nonsense. I'm not kidding. I wish I was kidding. I'm not. He is not. He will not suffer any fools. That's what I like about Vaughn. I do. Like
Yeah.
he'll listen. He probably will not listen to it. He didn't even listen to his own podcast. He did a 2-part
Yeah.
podcast with us. And he's like, why is everyone texting me? And I'm like, because people are listening to your podcast. He's like, oh. And I was like, what did you think we did? This people listen, man. Like it's good. It's good for you. And he's like,
I don't even know.
no, I
don't
just
even
didn't think
know
there'd
how
be
this
like
works,
20
so.
people texting me. And I'm like, yeah, it's fun. You did a good job, and
Yeah.
Coach, people are gonna be texting you after this podcast, just so you know.
Yeah, it was I don't know, but I've just met some, like I met the Reading coach. I think we've earned some respect. He's actually a really nice guy. I met the North Andover coach, or Andover coach, Rosella, very nice people. So I think for me, that's kind of important, that there's some stuff kind of going on here and there. Whatever. But I think if I have, JT's been good to me as well too. Poos is a friend of mine. I don't know. I think if I'm doing okay in their eyes, then I'm doing okay. In that way, I'm sure there's some people don't like me, whatever. But for the most part, the people that I kind of care about that way, we're doing all right. As long as we're strong and we're respected, our kids are respectful and we're respected. I'll take care of my kids. I'll put myself down in front of them any day. I don't care. They're good kids. So I appreciate your time, guys, a lot. So this is kind of cool.
Coach, thanks for coming on. That was fun. That was what we call a vibes podcast.
Yeah.
Our
The what?
vibes. Kids love
vibes?
that. Oh, and tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm
you're
wrong.
not.
That was
No,
a straight vibes podcast.
Vibes pod. Yeah. I love it.
That's
Just go with
good.
the flow.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
All right. I'll look that
Thanks,
up and what
Coach.
that means. So
All right. Coach, thanks
Thanks,
again for
Coach.
coming on.
All right.
And thanks again for listening to New England Lacrosse Journal's Chasing the Goal podcast. For Owen Hart and Kyle Devitt. See you next time.
thank you guys. Have a great time. Take care.